From the Mavericks, Mavericks.goldwinandsons.com. This is podcast episode 37, and today I want to touch again on the valley of despair because I realized something when I was writing down in my journal what I had experienced yesterday in my whole day. That the valley of despair is actually not a valley. It's a landing on a mountaintop. All right, so follow me here. This is where you are. This is where you want to be. All right. And so when you start your business, you start down here and you start to accrue small victories, and there's a lot of excitement. And as you climb, you realize that the climb is really difficult, and so you get really tired, and that might manifest itself as like low cash flow or having to fire employees or having been betrayed. And these experiences, which are not small, but in the grand context of your whole climb, will appear small one day. But these experiences which you look at as failures, will start to weigh on you and bear down on you. And then there comes a point when you get so hit so hard that what was normally the valley of despair, right? You hit the bottom of this valley and you can't get out of this rut. It's actually not the valley of despair. It's when you get to the first landing on this climb to the mountaintop. Again, so you're climbing, you're accruing these small victories, and then you realize the climb is more difficult than it seems, and you start to accrue small failures, bigger failures, and then you finally hit a breaking point where you need to rest, and you hit the first landing. So you've actually made quite a distance, like you've grown quite a bit from the time you started. But the problem is that you won't look back. Obviously, you won't look back and be like, oh, that was a great climb, because you could, but most people don't. Instead, what you look at is how high that mountaintop is. That you are here and you've got like 17 landings to go before you can even consider the peak. And so the question becomes, when you land on this landing, can I do this climb? Am I ready for the transformation that is necessary for me to get to that level? So when you reach that first landing, you have to make the decision. Will I transform? The person that I was took me from here to here, but there's a new person that I must become to get from here to the next landing. And then when you get to the next landing, another transformation has to occur, and another transformation, and it keeps on going. The difficulty is that when we get here, we reflect on how difficult this part of the climb was. And if this required this level of transformation, what does this transformation require? And that's quite a shocking revelation. And it is that revelation that fires people on the spot and tells them, I quit, I can't do this. I gotta go back to full-time work. So they go back to the bottom of the mountain and they decide to, and there's nothing wrong with climbing down the mountain. I mean, not everyone is a mountain climber, right? So people will stay in the valley, in the valley and hang out there where there's lush green grass, right? But the mountain, it's arid, it's cold, it's lonely, it's difficult, it's craggy, it's hard to walk on, there's no direct path, you have to pick a fork in the road, and sometimes the fork ends up in a dead end. Nothing like that in the valley. Everything like that on the mountain, right? And so some people, what they'll do is they'll get off that landing and go back to the lush valley and live there, and it's perfectly fine. But what some other people do, and what I almost did multiple times, is I never thought about it as a valley of despair. I just thought I was in the wrong business. So I'd have to go start a new business and get through it. I didn't realize I had hit a transformation threshold. I didn't know I hit a transformation barrier that I needed to go through, right? So what ends up happening is you climb down the mountain. You go and you start another business, climb. You encounter the same experience because it is the same person climbing the mountain. It's the same level 1 or level 2 or level 3 person climbing this mountain that's going from the base to the first milestone. And so now you hit a landing, but on a different part of the mountain. You hit a landing there and you realize and you look up, this is going to be a very large climb. This is going to be very difficult. So now it's not as if, so the landing is different, but it's not as if the mountain is different. The mountain peak is still the same. The landing you landed on might be in a different geographic area of this mountain, or financial area of this mountain, or operational area of this mountain. But it is still only the first landing. And you have to make the decision, Will I transform to get to the next level? So I am urging you, the purpose of this whole podcast episode is to urge you not to give up, to understand that when you are climbing up this mountain and you hit the first landing, the question is not, am I in the wrong business? The question is, am I the wrong person? And you can transform this person. Do I need to be the next level? Do I need to transform to climb? And sometimes the landing is like lateral, right? Sometimes the next landing is lateral. So you got to change careers, or you got to change the industry that you're in. That's fine. But the key is you don't go back down and start again. The key is, where do you go from this landing to get to the next landing? And will you transform? So I urge you, it is just a matter of transforming. The transformation is within your means. Everything that is happening to you right now, especially when you are in this valley of despair, which is not a valley, when you're on the first landing of despair, or what we should rename it as the landing of understanding, right? You understand now where the gap is and how much of a gap you have to cross. When you get there, you can make a decision that is within your control, that is not based on external circumstances, that is not based on what people say about you, or how the market is, or how the economics are, or how your industry is, or how your competition is. It's about whether you choose to transform, and that decision is within your control. And this should give you power, and this should give you motivation, and this should give you light. This should help you to understand that you are higher than you were before. That your victories were truly victories. That when you climbed and accrued failures, they were actually victories. Each failure was an understanding of a path that would not work. But every day you lived, you took another step forward past that failure. A failure is just a lesson, right? A success is a lesson and a failure is a lesson. It's like an A/B test, right? You've heard of A/B testing. A/B testing is when you put out a version A and a version B of a system or a product or a service, and you test it against the market and you see which one gets better acceptance, and you choose the winner. So our bar makes cocktails, right? So our bar and barbershop makes cocktails. So if I had one cocktail and I had two different ways to present it, and I tested it against the same group or the same kind of group, A and B, and one group reacted better to A than the other group reacted to B, A is the winner. And I would continue with displaying the cocktail in version A. Then I'd come up with an A/B version of version A and see which one was better. And I continue to innovate and I get better and better. That's failure and success in a nutshell. You are A/B testing a decision, right? And so when you make a decision and you get a result, all that is telling you is that maybe version B is better than version A, right? Your decision has an A and a B side. And when you think that you succeed, you think that whatever you decided on was the right answer. Actually, it was just an A/B test. What you picked, what you thought would be the winner was the winner, and what you thought would be the loser was the loser, which means you picked right? But that doesn't matter, because the A/B test, it's still an A/B test. Because if you look at it that way, then if you make the wrong decision, all that means is you thought B was better, but actually it was A, and you ended up discovering after running the test that B was actually incorrect. But it doesn't matter, it's just an A/B test. And that's my point. One of my personal trainers was telling me that in the process of losing weight, in the process of getting into the best shape of your life, building muscle, eating the right nutrition, you have to understand the concept and the virtue of equanimity, which means that it's a balance of temperament. You are not too low, you're not too high, right? And so now when you look at your decisions and you are not invested as much in the outcome, but rather in the process of trying to discover what the right result is, when you A/B test your decisions and see everything as an A/B test, you become indifferent. You don't become indifferent to the results, like the results matter, but you don't get emotionally attached to one result over the other because you are A/B testing how to go forward. So when you're climbing this mountain, every decision you make that is a success is an A/B test where what you thought was the winner was the winner. And every failure you accrue is just an A/B test where you thought was the winner is not the winner. But the opposite was, which means you still made the discovery on how to win, right? Like if you try something out and it doesn't work, it means that you know what might work. You know what doesn't work, and now you know what path does work. That's a victory. And so actually all your failures are successes. And so you climb, and you hit the first landing. So you must look back and say, that was me 3 years ago, I transformed. This is going to be me 3 years later, I am going to transform. And so that's what I want to leave you with today. If you are in a despairing and difficult moment of your business, understand something. You are a success because you are where you are right now, and that you have hit this first landing. And if you are contemplating closing your business, you're actually at the cusp of going to the next level. Will you transform? Will you transform? Because when you transform, you will take the business to the next level. And that's all this is all about. You have the power to change, and it's in your control. When you get to the first landing and you're wondering, can I make it through? That is when you know you've actually been a success. Like you've gone from version 1 to, when you, listen, okay, let me put it this way, because this is mind blowing. When you start from here and you get here and you hit the wall and you want to quit, you've actually reached the first success milestone, the requirement to transform to get to the next level. And you know I'm right, because when you look back, you realize that where you started and where you are now is two different people. It's two different people. So now, where you are now to get to the next level will require a different person. You are a success, and you will be a success again when you get to the next landing. Don't give up. Don't climb down to the mountain. Don't go around and try the mountain again. From where you are, if you need to take a lateral step to the next landing, do it from where you are. If you need to climb up to the next landing from where you are now, do it. Don't give up. 98, 95, 98, whatever the percentage of small business failures are, I am willing to bet 100% of all small business failures is that at the first landing, they realize they do not want to climb the rest of the mountain. Some people call it burnout. I call it a realization. A realization in the gap and an understanding of the self, saying, I do not want to cross this barrier. But that's a decision, and you can make the decision to cross the barrier. Anyway, if you are in the first landing and you are trying to get to the next level, so are we. Mavericks.goldwynandsons.com. Go to our website, sign up. I'll keep you on an email list. We'll talk about these things more often. We'll meet in events. We'll support each other, and we'll get to the first million and beyond. And it's not even about the first million. We'll get to all our victories and beyond together. Mavericks.goldwynandsons.com. I'll see you there. Take care.